Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Winning Drive podcast. I am Reeta Hubbard, the NFL chick, co host of the Glenn and Rita show on 1057 The Fan, with my guy Cordell Woodland from Shaking It Up Sports and the Ravens reporter for 1057 The Fan. And of course, we know that the Ravens came out of London with a win 24-16. And it feels like, folks have moved on because it feels like it was a win that the Ravens were supposed to have. I think you and I maybe had them. I had them winning by 8, which they
I
did.
I had them 24-13, and it was almost that.
Oh, you were very close. Okay, I think I had something. I think I
It
had
was something
21.
close to
I
that.
had 21-13, I believe.
Yeah.
So I had them by 8, but you were close. You were close as well. But we've moved along from that win. And now the focal point has been the injuries, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. So you, Cordell, went to the castle and you saw that I'm not saw, but heard Coach Harbaugh speak about specific guys. Let's go through them. Marcus Williams, who did make a really good play, broke up a nice pass, but still looks like he's struggling out there. Is now dealing with a hamstring injury, and that Harbaugh says that it is week to week. So, is it your thoughts on just resting this guy? Because I feel like he probably was already out there prematurely to begin with, but
Mm-hmm.
now he has another injury week to week. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing about keeping Marcus Williams, not necessarily keeping him out there, but um, I guess the reason that I was okay with them playing him was that he still had his legs, right? He still could run. He still could utilize his elite range that he has. But now with the hamstring, it's kind of like the double whammy. All right, you're playing with one arm now. You can't play with one leg, So it does seem like it's gotten to the point now, and I give him credit for trying to fight through the injury. A lot of guys you see nowadays, guys I don't know exactly what his pec injury is, but most of these pec injuries seem to be season ending. So for him to still strap it up and try to go out there and fight with his guys, he definitely deserves a lot of credit for that. But with him now picking up the hamstring injury, and you also look at how well Geno Stone is playing as of late. He gets another interception on Sunday. He's just been playing really well, probably having the best season of his career to this point now. I just think there's too many reasons to not force Marcus Williams to stay out there and let Geno Stone go out there and get the reps. That's
Yep.
kind of where I'm at this point with it.
I agree with you 100%. And I think Gino, is tied for first in
Yeah.
interceptions this season. Hey, man, he's doing a great job. And we definitely want to see Marcus Williams back because he is an impact player. But I think we would prefer to see him healthy in that regard. Brent Urban had a stinger issue. Malik Harrison is in concussion protocol. I know that those are names that people don't necessarily hear often, but Malik Harrison does play a lot of special teams. Brent Urban, just based on his size alone, does get some play time. So,
Yeah.
depending on how you feel about those guys, depends on how much impactful you think that this is. But it feels like those guys will be okay. But I would have to think for Malik Harrison, he might not play on Sunday.
Harrison could end up being a big one as well because he played quite a bit on the outside on defense. I mean, he had 24 snaps. That's 44% of the defensive snaps that he played on Sunday. So that's a nice chunk of it right there. So he definitely will be missed. You mentioned what he does on special teams, but they have incorporated him into this defense a little bit with all the injuries that they have to the outside linebacker right now. They are running out of bodies. Remember, there's no Owe, there's no Ajabo, there's no Bowser, and now you got Malik Harrison. I mean, they are really going through it at that position, and even Urban. I mean, I like what Urban has given them on the defensive line and his limited amount of snaps on that side of the ball, but he's a big body. He's good in the run, and I mean he's one of their best in terms of knocking the ball down at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about him because he is a big guy, really tall. So he does have the range in terms of just kind of deflecting some passes, and he's also been disruptive as well on the defensive line. So hopefully he's back soon. You mentioned Ajabo Owe. Coach Harbaugh said that Owe is close. I don't know what that means, but
Mhm.
I guess he'll be back soon, and David Ajabo will be back. And it appears that he will not need surgery. So I guess that's encouraging news, but still, we don't know how long. I definitely think that this team could use a way because I think he played well in that first game. And so, you want to see him ascend, but he's not getting the snaps because he's injured. So that's concerning. Luckily, the Ravens do have Jadeveon Clowney, and Kyle Van Noy has played well as well. But Owe really, hopefully he's healthy soon because you do want to see him out there getting the reps so he can get better and then play alongside guys like Clowney as well.
Yeah, I mean they always was playing well. I thought before he got hurt, and they just need some bodies back on the edge. They just need to get some of these guys back because it's been great with Kyle Van Noy and Jadeveon Clowney has been able to give them. But they need to get back to getting some of these young legs back on the field as soon as possible. Look, I don't know what they're going to be able to get out of Ajabo at this point. If he does, it seems like he will return. And Harbs a couple weeks ago has said that Ajabo has a decision to make, and that seems to be what Harbs's quote of the year is.
Yeah, he keeps saying things like that. Yeah.
So I mean, it seems even if he does, because we've seen Marcus Williams, who was one of those people that he said that about, and we've been talking about how Marcus Williams has looked hampered since he's been out there. I don't know what version of David Ajabo we're going to get whenever he does return.
The biggest one, and this is the one that you kind of alluded to in terms of decisions to make, is Coach Harbaugh talking about Tyus Bowser and his injury. And he said that situation is a little bit more difficult to explain and that, quote unquote, he is going to have some decisions to make. Now, the interesting part about this, Cordell, is that we don't know what's going on with Tyus. I mean, we believe it to be a knee injury. But we have not been told what's going on. The Ravens have been mum about it. Tyus has been mum about it. So the only thing that makes sense to me is like maybe there's some type of PCL, ACL injury that potentially needed that was similar to like what Lamar was dealing with, but maybe it's a tear that requires surgery. And this is me speculating because I have no idea what is going on with Tyus. And yes, people will sit here and say, well, you do a show with Tyus every other week. And this is very true. Tyus has still not said anything to us, though, about his injury. So all I can do is speculate just based on the little bit of information that we've been told. So what are your thoughts on the Tyus situation?
Yeah, it's been one that I have been that I've had my antennas perked up about really since camp, maybe even before camp. I mean, you could go back to our first episodes of this season where we were talking about Tyus Bowser, and I have been concerned about him from day one. It just seems like everything's been a regression with him. You coming from last year, obviously he returned last year, but he wasn't himself. We anticipated this year kind of being the healthy year for Bowser, but he showed up this offseason and he was hurt. And from my knowledge, it seems like it was a non-football type of injury. Maybe he got hurt training or something like that. But their timeline for him has changed a couple of times, I believe. And so now they're to the point now to where I don't think they know exactly what to do anymore. I'm sure it's a frustrating situation for them. I'm sure it's a frustrating situation for Tyus. So I'm as puzzled as you are about this whole thing. And it just seems like this thing is coming to a head. Like I just get the feeling that this is probably it. after this year,
Yeah.
between the two sides. I mean, just off of what's happened to this point, it just seems like they each probably are ready to go their separate ways when they get that opportunity. But yeah, John says Tyus will make it, he's leaving the door open for Tyus, I guess, to make an announcement, whatever that announcement may be. Maybe he'll do it on you guys' show. But
Yeah.
it just seems like whatever announcement that's going to be isn't a good one, right? Because I feel like if it was good, John would have no problem saying it.
Yeah, I am curious to know who is going to be the one that says it. And I don't look, I think that when Tyus is healthy, he's definitely a guy that this defense
No
um
question.
needs, and he's a very good player. But it does feel like you wonder if you're at the end of the road in terms of Tyus's time here in Baltimore. Unless he decides to come back, I don't know, for and have and get a lesser deal. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what this means for either side. But ultimately, hopefully we'll find out soon what's going on with Tyus. But yeah, the defensive injuries are piling up or have already piled up, and yet this is still a defensive unit that has been spectacular. Now they can't afford any more major ones for
Right.
sure. But ultimately I think that this group has been resilient, and good coaching has found a way to help these guys in terms of making up for things that they were lacking. The Ravens are second in sacks. But when you start looking at the guys that are a part of that, it's not necessarily guys that you think. So, luckily for them, they have a defensive coach in Mike McDonald that is able to really mask a lot of these injuries. So it will be interesting to see moving forward. All right, Cordell. So one of the things that has been very interesting to see is the evolution of Lamar Jackson. And I don't mean interesting in a way that like we didn't expect to see this. I have always been a person that has noted that Lamar has been a guy since college that has gotten better each year. And he is a guy that works very hard in becoming a better football player. That has always been his MO, and it continues to be the case. And so for Lamar, and this new offense and new players, as of right now, it really does feel like Lamar is doing great things in this offense. Kyle Van Noy was on the Pat McAfee show on Monday, and he was asked about Lamar. And to be fair, the McAfee show is they speak very highly of Lamar. They think very highly of him anyway. But in his short period of time being here, because remember, Van Noy was not on the week one roster. He got here because of some injuries. He mentioned that, and this is what he said: I believe Lamar Jackson has grown tremendously. People need to start paying attention because he's really doing an incredible job of delivering the football this year. And I completely agree with that. His mechanics looks so much better. His footwork looks so much better. You can see him progressing through his reads, which, I mean, I've always felt like Lamar was more than a one read guy, but I'm talking about scanning the entire field and making plays. I do think that Lamar has ascended, and I want to give you some information that I don't know, because as of right now, the numbers don't tell the story, right? What they're going to tell you is that Lamar has 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, when we all agreed that Lamar should have had more touchdowns in the Steelers game than, projected because of dropped passes. So we know that he should be doing better, but because of his teammates, he was not able to have the record that he has. But I will say this: last year in 12 games that Lamar played, he played 22, he had 2242 yards, 2,242 yards. And then in 6 games already here, he is at 1,253 yards. So Lamar is already, to me, on pace of having almost 4,000 yards, potentially a 4,000 yard season, at least 3,500 yards. We're looking at right here. Now the touchdown interception ratio is not going to be good because of, again, the situations in terms of the drop passes and such. But he also has essentially 70% completion percentage, 69.9. I was taught in math class that you round that 9 off to the nearest one, and that is
Right.
70%. So he's already doing good in completion percentage. This is his best completion percentage thus far in his career, by the way. And including that 2019 year, he completed 66% of his passes. As of right now, he's doing essentially 70% of his passes. When you watch him play, he does look like he is in much more of a command at the quarterback position, under center and in the pocket, as he has in years past. What is your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He just seems more confident as a passer. In that clip that you were referring to from Kyle Van Noy, Van Noy references one of the passes that Lamar makes that ends up being an incompletion. But you can
Yes.
still throw, contrary to what casual NFL fans believe, not every incompletion is a bad throw. Sometimes you got to kind of just look past the results and just look at it for what it is. And he talks about a play where Lamar is kind of scrambling left and and just flicks his wrist and is able to throw it back across his body, just overshoots his receiver a little bit, but he overthrows, he gets the ball over the defender. He has that touch to be able to put it over the defender. And the touch is the thing that I think Lamar has really improved at the most this year. If you look at Lamar throughout his career, especially on some of those deep passes, it's almost like a rope, like a frozen rope. It doesn't have much of an arc. He really
Yeah.
just throws his passes right on a line. And this year he has, you look at some of those passes, what was it? The pass to Zay Flowers, I want to say not this week against the Titans, but the week before against the Steelers, where Zay goes out of bounds. He hits Zay on the sideline. That type of throw before, I think Lamar throws that out of bounds. I think it sails right over his head and goes right out of bounds. But this year, it's just something about knowing how to put the right amount of touch on the ball. He's surveying the field really well. We're not just seeing him lock into Mark Andrews. We're not just seeing him lock into Zay Flowers. He had completions to 7 different guys midway through that game on Sunday. He's surveying the entire field. So that's right there, shows you the progression that he has had as a quarterback. You'd like to see him be a little more on time in his passes. He still isn't there to where it's 3-step drop, and once he gets off that back foot, the ball's coming out. That's not always there, and it's a combination of reasons that could be the case. You know, receivers may not be open right away, or the line isn't giving him the time to necessarily just get to just set his feet right after that 3rd step, or maybe he's missing a read. It's a combination of a lot of different things, but there's no way you can look at Lamar this year and not say that he has progressed as a pure quarterback. I mean, he's dangerous. He's dangerous right now. I mean, and Lamar's been dangerous his entire career. But I think what makes him more dangerous right now is that, look, we already know what he can do with his legs, right? I mean, he can take off and get 10 yards literally whenever he wants to. But it's the fact that he now has the confidence, and I don't want to say the confidence because I think Lamar's always played confident, but it's the fact that I think this offense now and some of the new weapons that he does have it now allows him to feel more confident in the guys around him, even though they haven't, you know, and that Steelers game was really a blemish. They haven't had the drops haven't been as big of an issue as it was for them in that game all year. So I don't want to over analyze the drops. It was a bad day for them in that game. But other than that, the drops haven't really been an issue. Now, the miscommunications are a little bit of an issue. We saw the interception, him trying to get it to Bateman. That type of stuff has happened a couple of times this year. They have to clean that up. But I do think the byproduct of him being in a new offense and him having new weapons at his disposal now allows him to beat teams in other way in more ways now than he was before. Teams have to watch, they have to watch what's going on out there. They can't just key in on Mark. They can't just key in on Lamar. They have to at least respect all the other receivers that they now have on the field. And Lamar's doing a great job of hitting these guys. I mean, everybody talks about his completion percentage being high because they're not an air raid offense. He's thrown the ball down the field. And when he has, more times than not, it's been an accurate ball. He's making the passes. He's making high efficiency passes. He's making passes he feels like he can make. He's not just going to throw the ball down the field just to do it. So I trust his eyes right now. I love what I'm seeing from him. He's just playing confident. He's playing smart. And we didn't get a fumble this week, which is good. But once he gets over the turnover bugaboo, which really hasn't been a major issue for him throughout his career, I think Lamar will really take his game to the next level.
I agree. I mean, I just feel like, he's already done that, and that I am not absolving Lamar of criticism, because I definitely still think that there's some opportunities there that he misses on in the passing game. And obviously the fumbles have been an issue, and he has to find a way to protect the football. And he's mentioned that, right? But a lot of the factors in terms of like what's happening with this offense to me are the offensive line not necessarily doing what they can, and also the receivers just not being in a position where they can. Because you mentioned like Bateman, to me it looks like Lamar thought that he was going out like a out route, and then Bateman looks like he's doing like a curl or comeback or something like that. So it just doesn't look like that they're on the same page. So the miscommunications, the drop passes, those things are affecting what his numbers should look like, because Lamar is having a really good season, and where it's not reflecting based on a stat sheet. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean that he's not being a very good football player. And again, Kyle Van Noy just got here. You know what I'm saying? Like, he literally is a guy that has been with the Chargers, with the Patriots. He has not been a Raven but for a couple of weeks at this point, and is the guy that is already telling you, hey, look, Lamar is playing really good football right now. And I'm going to disagree with him on telling people to pay attention. Don't pay attention. Don't pay the Ravens no mind over here, because let them quietly do their thing. Hopefully this offense can get it together, because they are still trying to figure out a way to do better essentially in the second half, where they are not good, and they're not playing good football. But once they do, hey, I think it's going to be a problem. So I definitely agree that Lamar is playing at a very high level, despite what his statistics might say on paper right now. Excuse me. Okay, Cordell, this is a conversation that is one of praise, but one of concern for me. And that is Mr. Patrick Queen. I have been an advocate for Patrick Queen since his arrival in Baltimore during the 2020 season. I thought that people were very hard on Patrick Queen. You know, sometimes I think that because a guy was drafted in the first round, we automatically assume that those guys are going to be immediate impact players. And it doesn't always work that way. However, you saw the potential. He just didn't really have it all together. And then last season, even before Roquan got to Baltimore, he was really playing well. And then Roquan arrived. And those two have been a tandem that really are one of the best in the National Football League. He has played such a great role into what the defense of the Baltimore Ravens has done. When they need a guy that can hit the hole and make some stops, Patrick Queen is there. When they need a guy to rush the passer, Patrick Queen is there. The problem, though, is that Patrick Queen is not under contract after this year. Remember, the Ravens declined his fifth-year option. And so he will be a free agent unless they tag him, of course. But we know that the Ravens typically don't do things like that. And I don't know if they would do that having a Roquan Smith already. So it does feel like Queen is pricing himself out of Baltimore. What are your thoughts?
It does feel like that. I'm not surprised by that because he's done nothing but get better each year of his career. So you knew that this was probably going to be the best year yet. And that's what it's been for him. I said it the other day. He's the team's best pass rusher, easily. I think it's easy. I think he is one of, if not the key to this defense. Roquan is obviously Roquan.
Yeah.
But I do think people give backhanded compliments to Patrick Queen when they talk about how good he is. And then they mention, yeah, but it didn't start until Roquan got here, or it's because this dude has been excelling each year in his career, even before Roquan got here. And like you said, last year he was trending up before Roquan joined the team. So I don't really buy into that. I think I've always thought Patrick Queen was unfairly criticized. I just think when you're a middle linebacker drafted in the first round to Baltimore, it comes with certain expectations that aren't fair. Not everybody's going to be Ray Lewis. It's only one Ray Lewis, and that's just the way it is. People forget Patrick Queen didn't even play a lot of football coming out of LSU. It was his first year as a starter. Yep. People forget Patrick Queen is one of the youngest players in the NFL right now. So this dude is just scratching the surface of how good he's going to be. And I know it's very unlikely that he remains in Baltimore going forward, but I think it's going to be a monumental loss if he leaves the Ravens.
I think it's a very, very good chance
that
happens.
It is.
And currently, when you look at the roster, because they have like a Trenton Simpson, they have guys that they have linebackers, Latavius Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who would be.
There's nobody on the roster.
There's nobody that's Queen. I can't come up with anybody. I mean, you would have to literally go out and draft a new guy because I love Malik Harrison. We talked about him, a couple segments ago about the injuries, but Malik Harrison, because he came out, I believe, in the same draft.
They were supposed to be the two guys.
Right. Coming out of Ohio State, people were high on him, but he was also a middle round draft pick. Let's be real with ourselves. You know what I mean? And I think that he's been serviceable for sure. I think that Malik Harrison is a good football player. He's not Patrick Queen. Right. Let's be honest here. I just don't know who on this roster currently would be able to do what Queen does. And I think that you have to, if you're the Ravens, you do have to make a decision. I mean, do you want this defense? I understand that there's going to be other guys down the line that's going to need big paydays because you got Madubuike that you have to make a decision about. Clowney, you got to make a decision about if you want him to come back. And at some point, Kyle Hamilton, although this is only his second year, and so they have time. At some point, his agent is probably going to be like, "Hey, my guy wants his contract too. So what's going on?" Oh, Geno Stone, Geno Stone, by the way, has played well. So I don't know what the priority is, but I think that Patrick Queen should be a priority for the Ravens. I understand that there's a lot of defensive guys that's probably ahead of him, but I also feel like potentially letting him go could be. I don't want to see it. That's all I'm saying. I
don't know if there is anybody that's ahead of him right now on the defense. Like, because Madubuike is in a contract year. Who are you prioritizing right now? As we sit here today, if you got to pick between Madubuike and Queen, who are you keep? I mean, honestly, I'd say probably Queen because you got Travis Jones, you got Broderick Washington. Brent Urban seems like he's never going anywhere. I mean, so you could draft interior defensive linemen, and sure, you could, by that logic, maybe they believe that Roquan is so great of a player that they could go and draft a middle linebacker that can come in and playing next to Roquan will maybe not right away they're Patrick Queen, but they believe that maybe in time they could get that same type of Patrick Queen type of production from the young guy. I'm not saying that that's necessarily what I believe, but just trying to get inside their head. Right now, for me, though, I'm prioritizing Patrick Queen over everybody else on the defense, just because I look at that second level as their nucleus right now. That's the nucleus of the defense. Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith. And yes, Roquan is a stud, but we don't know what it'll look like once Queen is gone. You know what I'm saying? And at this point, he is playing like one of the better inside linebackers in the league at this point. So it'll be a monumental loss. We've heard Eric DeCosta in the past say that they want to keep Patrick Queen on his team, and I'm sure they do at their number. But Patrick Queen is probably going to have a different number in mind. So I don't know if they'll be able to get this done. I don't know if they decide to, because it'll probably be cheaper for them, I would imagine, to sign Matabike and maybe and then if they do decide to franchise tag Patrick Queen, go that route and see if they could get a deal done maybe the next year or that offseason. But it doesn't, I'm not optimistic that Patrick Queen is in Baltimore long term. I don't know how feasible that'll be financially for the Ravens, but it's going to be a big time blow. It's going to be a major blow to the team.
I completely agree with you. I'm sure that the Ravens are already having contingency plans on who are their priorities to keep. And I don't know if Queen is on that list, not because they don't need him or don't think that he should be there, but from a numbers perspective, like how much is he going to demand and how much are they willing to say they're willing to give him? And that's going to be the concern. But I would love to see Queen and Roquan grow old together in Baltimore, because that would be a tandem that would be very scary for years to come. So we'll see how this goes. But I am very proud of Patrick Queen. He's dealt with a lot of adversity from fans, probably from coaches too. And now he's playing very good football right now, to the point where we're having a conversation about Queen potentially pricing himself out of Baltimore. So kudos to you, Queen. We are very proud of your accomplishments. The next episode, we'll be previewing the Detroit Lions, the 5-1 Detroit Lions, Cordell. We could say who saw it coming, but I did. I think Glenn and I both thought that the Lions would win the NFC North. As of right now, they look like they're on pace to do that. They are playing very good football right now. They are one of the more complete teams in the NFL. So this will be interesting to discuss. I am very nervous, but excited about this matchup. Mm-hmm. So you and I will break down the Lions game, and we'll talk about who we think will come out victorious as the Ravens finally come back home and what it feels like forever. Yeah. I don't know when the last time they played at home. Do you?
It's been a minute. It's almost a month now.
It's been a month, right?
Yeah.
Unreal. Almost a month. So we'll be talking about that more when we come back on our next episode. We want to thank you all for listening. So from Cordell to me, this is Winning Drive.